What's up everybody, it's Victon here with another 3.15 Expedition League build guide. Today we're going to be going over a Stone Golem Necromancer, trying to bring back the old Golems because I love the playstyle so much. And I did do a whole bunch of research on this one because with all the changes that happened with their nerfs, I really wanted to see if Stone Golems or even Carrion Golems can even still work. And after watching some Stone Golem gameplay from the Game Reports channel, I was happy to see that Stone Golems were performing pretty well in the in-game content. So after taking inspiration from his build and also doing a ton of work in POB and on POE.Ninja, this is what I have come up with, and I'm happy to report it is still quite strong and can do all of the content in the game. I'll of course give a link to Ethan's Twitch and YouTube. I definitely suggest you guys check him out if you haven't already. I have cleared all Maven invitations at this point, including the Feared, Uber Elder, Tier 16 is 60% Delirious map, so it can definitely kind of do everything. It's decent enough survivability with 5.5k life, 80% chaos resistance, and the Timeless Jewel that has Zabakwa on it, making us pretty tankle to elemental damage as well as that 80% chaos, so pretty good overall. On top of that, we've got about 30% physical damage reduction and a little bit over 1k life regen per second. So yeah, overall pretty solid, nothing uber tanky, but enough to comfortably do all the content and level up into the high 90s as well if you're interested in that. Overall, I'd say this build excels at boss farming and is a decent mapper. Nothing too speedy, but also nothing too slow either by any means. Overall, the build cost me about 40 exalts to put together, and for me it's doing 8.5 million DPS. About 18 exalts of that being of course the wands, which you can get for much cheaper if you don't want to spend that much like I did on mine. So I'd say the lower budget version sits at around 15 exalts, the medium budget between 30 and 50, and the high budget probably around 60 to 70 max, just to give you guys some ranges for build cost. Now before we get into the build guide, just a few things first. First is kind of what you're going to be getting into with this guide. I of course have a POB linked below, and I'm also going to give you guys the trade link spreadsheet that I have made for this build. It's available for you guys to look at and get every single gear item upgrade you can from the low budget all the way up to the high budget of the build. It's going to give you all the trade links directly to the POE trade website to make it as easy as possible for you guys to gear out your characters. And of course at the end of the video we're going to be going over my final thoughts on the build and where I'd like to take it from here. Lastly, before we dive into Path of Building, I just wanted to mention that I typically do stream on Twitch, but haven't the last couple of weeks as much because I really have not been enjoying this league. Good thing though is I really did enjoy this build, and I actually have a Summon Reaper build that's been pretty fun to play as well, so I might pop back going over to Twitch, so definitely check me out over there if you're interested. But also, if you're not wanting to go over there, you can't catch me online, feel free to ask as many questions in the comment section here as possible. I'll do my best to spend a little bit extra time on the comment section with this video and my next guide that I'm going to do, just because I'm not streaming as much on Twitch right now. So but I want to help you guys out with any question that you have for any of my builds, so definitely let me know in the comment section. Link's going to be in the description below for my Twitch, and also if you're interested in supporting the channel, I do have a Patreon linked below as well, which is going to get you access to my community Discord, and I do personal build reviews over there all the time. Alright, so enough of that, let's hop right into the guide, and feel free to check timestamps below if you want to skip around to certain parts of the guide. Alright, and here we are in Path of Building. So what I'll do first is just kind of explain what we're doing over here in Path of Building, what you can get out of the actual Path of Building. We'll talk about the skills, we'll talk about the items, everything that you need to know to get the build up and running, and then we'll head on over to the spreadsheet that I have made for all of the gear. Alright, so let's go ahead and start out. So first and foremost, this is of course a Necromancer build. The first 2 points you're going to do is Mindless Aggression, then we're going to go Unnatural Strength, and after that you're going to pick up Commander of Darkness, which is absolutely massive for that 30 all elemental resistances, very helpful there. And then lastly for your Uberlau you do get Bone Barrier, which is pretty solid. That helps us fight bleed with that grants level 20 bone armor skill. I would always suggest you guys put this on the left click so it is auto casting for you as you run around. You can of course do this build as an elementalist. I would say the only differences between the two builds, everybody always asks this, the elementalist is going to be more tanky, whereas the necromancer is going to be doing more damage. Now the reason I chose necromancer over the elementalist this league is because that I think we need a little bit of damage. Even though we do have 8.5 million DPS, that number probably last league would be over 20 million. with the exact same build, but because of all the nerfs, we're down to 8.5 million. Even that is still more than enough to do all the content in the game, but if you're over here on the Elementalist, you're going to lose a little bit of that at the cost of gaining survivability, which I would rather die every once in a while but have way more damage. So that's just me. If you do end up going Elementalist, you should get Elemancer first, so get these 4 points, and then get Bastion of Elements for great survivability, and lastly you get Shaper of Storms. Perfect, so let's go ahead and talk about the actual tree itself. Now, really, there's not too much crazy going on here. This is the same build that we've been playing league after league, but of course I'll still mention a few things for the newer folks out there. There's really only a couple different changes here. Of course, we're getting as much life as basically possible on the tree because of all the damage, kind of, I guess you could even say buffs for the monsters, and just the fact that we're losing so much survivability, whether it be from flasks, all that stuff. We're getting as much life as possible on this build. That's actually why we're only doing a single large cluster jewel instead of typically we would do either 1 large cluster jewel and 2 mediums, or even sometimes 2 larges and 4 mediums. But this time we're actually going with just the 1 and even no mediums, just so we could pick up more life. I'm only level 94, but I have, what do I have? 5.2k? Yeah, 5.2k life, which is okay. I think I'll probably end the build if you were like level 96 plus, you'll probably be around 5.5k, which is not too bad. We do have actual multiple layers of defense, which we'll talk about next. The second layer of defense that we're going to have is actually coming from this timeless jewel right here. It's called Glorious Vanity. The big thing to note there is sacrificed in the name of Zabakwa. This is the one that when you equip it, it makes everything turn into a different ability. You actually can't see them here in POB, but I'll explain that in a second. But it makes your big keystones like these two turn into Divine Flesh. Now, Divine Flesh is absolutely massive for defenses. It gives us +5 to maximum chaos res, so that takes us from 75 to 80. And then it also has 50% of elemental damage taken as chaos damage. So not only are we going to have a ton of chaos resistance, which is good in general, that's going to really help with chaos resistance, it's also going to help us mitigate some elemental damage, so very solid. We do have 22% is not that great, but it's also not bad at all for physical damage reduction, so not too bad. As far as the actual Glorious Vanity itself, now one tip for you guys, these are actually pretty cheap this league. They range from, I don't know, about 30C to 50C. I bought all of mine for 30C when I was doing this myself. But the tip for you guys is to buy it, put it in this socket right here, and then just see what all the nodes give you, right? And a lot of times these will give you like either minion damage, sometimes they give you resistances, sometimes they give you life, but these bigger ones, the notables, can actually be a whole bunch of different stuff, which is really good for us. Like the reason I went up here is because this one is actually giving me minion damage and minion life. If yours doesn't have that, which it probably won't, you can just take those 2 points away and put them elsewhere. This one is the one that we have to path through, so it's nice if this one has something good. The ones that you can look for are the minion damage ones, like I said, and also there's one that has flat physical damage reduction along with armor. I think it's like 4% physical damage reduction and like 40% armor. It's super good. So if you get that one, very good. There's also ones that give like plus to chaos, max chaos resistance, plus to, you know, fire, cold, lightning max resistance. So pretty good. And mine had that, so I did click that. Perfect. And I would just say, like I said, buy it, check what you have in your all your nodes, and if you got nothing good, sell it right back for exactly how much you bought it for, and buy another one, and just kind of repeat the process until you get a good one. Okay, cool. So that is our defenses. And it's, like I said in the beginning, it's not the craziest defensive build out there, but it's more than enough, I think, that you can definitely be leveling up into the high 90s and feel pretty comfortable, especially depending on the content that you're doing. I was doing some crazy hard content, and I was dying maybe, you know, once every other map, something like that, so really not too bad for the absolutely crazy content that I've been doing with this build. And by that, I mean, you know, the super in-game bosses, Uber Elder, Maven. I was chaining Mavens on this character to make profit, and I was very rarely dying, so pretty solid. Moving on from there, we have a couple, let's see about the changes that's kind of different this league. I actually saw Ethan, the Game Report, do this one right here, and I actually really like this, so props to you, Ethan. Grave Intentions, it fits perfectly for the build right now, just because there's so much damage going on out there, and with the nerfs in general to both our abilities and also our defenses, and our minions' defenses at that, getting Grave Intentions is super solid. The reason it is very, very solid is because, of course, 20% chaos resistance, which is great, but minions that have 10% increased maximum life is extra maximum energy shield. Really, really good. It gives them a buffer of energy shield so that they can always, pretty much always be on full life for renewal, and that's 5% more damage right there. And if you had 2 mediums up here, that would be 10% more damage on top of that, so pretty good. So that combos really well with renewal. From there, pretty much everything else is pretty standard here. We got Golem Commander for +1 Golem. We have Death Attunement up here for +1 Spectre. Our Spectres that we have is 2 Carnage Chieftains and 2 Host Chieftains. Both of those are coming from Act 7, the Ashen Fields. Those are going to give Frenzy charges, and those are going to give Power charges. We of course do pick up this wheel of here so we can get some extra reduced mana reservation so we can run all of our auras. Very important to get those. And other than that, I picked up this wheel right here just to give us some nice life regen. And then there's all this life down here. You could of course go over here if you really wanted to. Like if I, did all the way up to 100, I would grab all this stuff right here. Other than that, it's really basic, that pretty much what we've been doing every single league, nothing crazy. This note actually is super, super important though. I did want to mention this because since we're using stone golems, their main damage is coming from their slam, not from their auto attacks. So we want as much AoE on that slam as possible, and the amount of AoE that I have right now is almost a full screen's worth of area of effect, so pretty solid when it comes to clear speed actually. We sometimes pick this up, sometimes we don't in different variations that I've done of this build. I'm going to go ahead and pick it up on this version because like I said, I think that you need to have a little bit more tankiness than we're used to on all of our minions. This is some pretty nice minion defenses. That is pretty much the actual build here. We'll go over all of the, the Anima Stone and all that when we talk about the gear, but for now I think that's pretty much it. We do have Ravenous Horde as our anoint. Let me just make sure on that amulet. Champion of the Cause, that's right. You typically do Ravenous Horde, but we're doing something a little different. I actually anointed Champion of the Cause, and that's just to make my mana a little bit more comfortable for me. There's a whole bunch of different stuff that you can do, but this is what I went with. I went with Champion of the Cause. It's a little bit expensive. The golden oils are, I think right now they're about 30 chaos, so not too bad, but at the beginning of a league you might want to do something different, but right now it's really not too bad. But Champion of the Cause gives some reduced reservation for your skills and some effect as well, and that allows us to be pretty comfortable when it comes to our mana. Cool, moving over to our skills. Our main skill is, of course, Summon Stone Golem. Getting a 21-20 is very important here, just a lot of extra damage. If you can't afford that, I think they're pretty cheap, but if you can't afford that, you can always just go for a 21-0 Summon Stone Golem. That's very good. It's better than a 20-20, just so you guys know. Brutality, Melee Fizz, Multi-Strike. If you don't have the currency for Awaken Multi-Strike, which I didn't, don't even worry about that. Get Divergent. It's about an X. But it actually gives a ton of damage, so pretty solid there. Minion damage, Pulverize, and it's interesting that, so I'm at what, 8.5 million, and I don't have any Awakened Gems. I'm not sure exactly what it'd go to, but I would bet that it would go probably closer to 9.5 million DPS, so just kind of keep that in mind. One interesting thing here is in your body armor, if you really want to min-max, what I would suggest doing is getting a single white socket in place of a red socket. So you would put your Pulverize in there normally, and that's for your map clearing. When you come to a boss, you could switch it out for increased critical strike damage, and it's going to give you an extra million DPS, a little bit more than a million DPS. So not bad there at all for that little switch, but that's min-maxing. You guys don't have to do that. If you don't have the white socket on there, don't worry about it. Moving on to our auras, we do have War Banner with Generosity for some melee fizz damage. We have Flame Dash with Second Wind, and we have Convocation. Now Convocation, I want to spend some time on this real quick. Everybody has it in their builds, and it's, all hunky-dory, but I think it's really important for you guys to know in this build, it's so important. It just really helps with your clear speed. Like the play style is you go up to a pack, and if you're the Stone Golems are kind of derpy. They fixed their AI a little bit this patch, and it definitely does feel better to play Stone Golems than it used to. But using Convocation smartly, is that a word? Wisely, we'll go with wisely, is very, very good because you can kind of run up to a pack, and if your Stone Golems are off derping around behind you, hit Convocation and they'll immediately teleport to you and start slamming the ground and basically clear the pack immediately. So it's actually really, really good convocation, and using it strategically. Oh, that's another one. Using it strategically instead of just kind of like having it on auto cast, basically. Only do it when you really need to. We have, for our curse, we have Assassin's Mark. Now we do have a couple different versions here, and I have Anomalous for mine. It gives, what does it give? It's not too much damage. It's like a 2.7% increased damage. So just know that if you don't have the currency for Anomalous, don't worry about it. I think it was like 30 chaos. You can always get default and no worries. Phase Run, same thing, Anomalous. Interesting thing about Phase Run though is it has really high dex requirements, and we do not have that much dex in this build. We only have 111. So I had to limit myself to a level 8 phase run. If you guys have some more dex that you got somewhere else in your build, you can take this up a notch. But I'm only at level 8, and increase duration to make both of those last longer. For our ore here and for our defense, we have Summon Skitterbots with Unbound Ailments. Now it is actually pretty solid, the Unbound Ailments. We've been always doing this with our Syndicate Operative builds. We're going to go ahead and use it on this build as well, because it does give a quite good damage boost. Let's go ahead and take off Unbound Ailments, and basically what that's doing is it's buffing the shock, and it's buffing the chill effect of your Skitterbot. So let's take that off. Check this out. It gives 500,000 DPS. Pretty solid. Not too bad. We have Cast When Damage Taken and Immortal Call, both low level. Cast When Damage Taken, do not level it above level 1, and Immortal Call, don't level it above level 3. For our first wand here, we do have 2 wands. Our first wand is a trigger wand. So anytime you cast a spell, it will trigger all of these spells right here. So Desecrate, make sure you keep this as a level 1, because it is going to cost mana now, the new changes. So a level 1 Desecrate is going to help you with mana. Flesh Offering, we do have Divergent here, which is actually pretty solid. Let's see how much a big difference that is. It's a 3.6% damage buff. That's pretty crazy. So Divergent Flesh Offering, I think it's about an Exalt, but it's definitely worth it. That's a big damage boost. We have a portal here, which I like. I usually like doing cast on death portal, but we didn't have the sockets for it in this run, in this build. So we did portal on our trigger. So basically every 8 seconds you're casting a portal, so it's not too bad. Definitely saves you a ton of time. You're not dying too often, but if you do die, you don't want to run back, man. Softcore problems, right? The portal in there has been a big help for me. Okay, cool. Race Specters. This is the very typical setup here. Race Spectre, Feeding Frenzy, Animate Guardian, Life Tap. Race Spectre. I actually don't have a 21, but it would be smart to have a 21 right here. Feeding Frenzy, so they can get the buff. Animate Guardian. Now you can either get a level 21-0 Animate Guardian, or you can get a level 20-20 Divergent Animate Guardian. Both is going to be exactly the same life, so it just depends on what the price is in the market right now. I went with the 21-0. And you absolutely have to use Life Tap, otherwise your Spectres are not going to cast Frenzy and Power Charges that often. And again, for our Spectres, we have 2 Carnage Chieftains and 2 Carnage Chieftains and 2 Host Chieftains. Both come from Ashen Fields in Act 7. And that is, of course, definitely make sure you put that in your helmet so that they can get the extra gem levels, and they can get the extra plus level 20 minion life, or whatever you have in there, 16, 18, doesn't matter. But we definitely need to put that in our helmet so they get that extra little boost of life. If you do not have a helmet like this, I would suggest probably not doing Animate Guardian and putting a minion life there instead. And a quick rundown on the Animate Guardian. I do have videos on my channel that go over exactly how to set up the Animate Guardian, so check that out if you're interested. But a quick little rundown, if I can remember off the top of my head, is our helmet is the Mask of the Stitched Demon. Our gloves are any gloves that have vulnerability on hit corruption implicit, so any of them, doesn't matter. It definitely helps if you can maybe get some chaos res or any elemental resistance on those gloves too. That kind of helps. For our boots, we have Wind Scream boots, or is it Wind Shriek? It's one of those two, Wind Scream or Wind Shriek. Basically, it's for the +1 curse, so that we can, the Animate Guardian can actually curse with vulnerability, and we can also do our Assassin's Mark. And so that's, so now we're missing our body armor. Okay, so for your body armor, just a rare body armor. Typically what I like to do is get one that says nearby enemies are blinded, and then I will mastercraft a benchcraft on there the 10% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. This combos actually really well with this node up here, because this is another 10% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. So technically, if you didn't have that on your chest, you would be fine, but I would still go ahead and do it because it's just super solid, because that would mean 20% of our animated guardian's life, which he has about 100,000 as extra maximum energy shield. So he would also have 20,000 energy shield. Really good. And the way that that works with that Mask of the Stitch Demon helmet is because we have so much energy shield as well. We're actually going to be he is actually going to be regening a ton of life per second. He's probably absolutely never going to die with this setup. And then obviously for the weapon, Kingmaker weapon, for all of the damage boosts and for the fortify for you. Very solid. And our last aura here in our single unset ring, we have Pride to round it out. Perfect. So that is all of our gym links. Let's go ahead and move on over to our weapons and our gear. So for our first weapon, as I mentioned, this is going to be a trigger weapon. So we want the +2. It's +1 to all spell skill gems and +1 to minion gems. And now I also focused on getting as much attack speed as possible. It's not an absolute must-have with stone golems. It definitely was better on things like, syndicate operatives, carrion golems. It's not as huge with the stone golems because their main damage is coming from the slam, right? It's much better to have cooldown reduction, but we can't get that on weapons. So I just went ahead and get that. And I also got some movement speed on that one. And then obviously the big thing here is the trigger socketed spells. You need that craft on one of your 2 weapons. For my second weapon, I don't need 2 with the trigger socketed spells, so I focus on some other stuff. Just the +2, and then also got 30% maximum life for minions, which I thought was pretty big. And then the attack speed. You could probably get just minion damage instead of the attack speed, and I wonder if it's even better. So either of those is probably just fine. Moving on to our helmet, I crafted this myself. The things that you're looking for here is +2 or 3 2-socketed minion gems, and plus anything from 16 to 20 minion life. And then I just bench crafted myself some life and some resistances on there as well. Pretty cheap to make these, honestly. You just use bound fossils in a single resonator. Easy peasy, just spam your bound fossils until you get something like this and you're good to go. The best enchant for stone golems is of course the stone golems deal 40% increased damage. So pick that up on a bone helmet. It's about 1 exalt to get the base, and if you want a helmet with also the enchant on there, it's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be about 5 exalts to get the base, and then you craft it. So honestly, not too bad. It doesn't take that many bound fossils to get something like that. Our body armor, we also are going to craft ourselves. I would definitely suggest you guys craft this yourself. It is much cheaper to do than purchasing it. Now, I've been doing this with Carrion Golem for a couple leagues now, but it's a little bit different here with Stone Golems because it is not an intelligence skill gem, it is now a strength gem. This is the best type of chest you can get. Just the +2 to levels of gems for your Stone Golems is very solid, especially in this league where our damage is already a bit lower than we used to. It's definitely important to get this over, in the past we've either done chests like this or we've done what is that chest, brass dome, something like that, but that's very defensive, whereas we're needing to be a little bit more offensive focus here. So we're gonna go ahead and go with the active skill gem and plus strength gem, and then I just crafted some life on there, and I'll go over it when we get to it, but I'll show you guys the craft of exile for this once we get to the trade link spreadsheet. It's actually super easy to make this. It probably is going to cost you, I think it's 1 exalt for the base 6-link warlord, is also 1 exalt, or I think it's like 1.3 exalt, so that's 2.3 exalts, and then to actually craft this is about another 2 exalts. So it's actually under 5 exalts to get a 6-link chest with this. Really not bad at all. Really not bad. For our gloves, now tip here is for our gloves, our boots, we're really focusing on getting high life, 1 resistance, and then chaos res, and then ideally you'd also want a suffix open so you could then craft some more chaos resistance. Just keeping that in mind because we're really trying to get 80% chaos res, so you're gonna need this on several of your pieces. And as you can see, I have it here. Usually I'm used to doing like a minion damage craft, but in this case I wanted to go ahead and get the chaos resistance as high as possible without doing other things on the build, so that's why I went ahead and did that. For your boots, pretty much the same thing here. High life, 1 res, and then 1 chaos res. And then of course move speed, and then the crafted fire plus chaos resistance, whatever you need, and then chaos resistance right there. For our amulet, same thing. We are actually crafting this ourselves as well. It's kind of nice thing about this build. You can actually craft a lot of this very straightforward. It's not, complicated crafting. It's basically just get 1 item, awaken orbit onto another item, and you're good to go. So on this one, we're focusing on physical skill gems and strength skill gems. and then, you know, slam it with an Awakener's Orb, see what you get. I got lucky on mine. I got all attributes. I would suggest you guys probably do this on a Jade Amulet for a little bit more dex to start with, and not necessarily, you know, an Onyx Amulet like this. This is just one that I had laying around that I already had physical spell gems on it, so worked out. Moving on to our rings, we have 2 unset rings. And now you want as much life and resistances on there as possible with 1 open suffix. That's pretty key because we are getting 2 minimum endurance charges. So we will always have 2 endurance charges with these 2 crafts right here. Now you can do that also on your amulet. I just did not have enough chaos resistance, which is why I put that on there. So I would be capped at 80%. But same thing there, you know, life, resistances, and then that open suffix. These are actually pretty cheap. I think I paid like 10 chaos for like both of them. Very, very cheap. Same thing with the belt, also super cheap. Darkness Enthroned, very good for minion builds. And I actually have some pretty cheap jewels in mine. I think my jewels are like 20 chaos each, nothing crazy. I don't know what the prices are now, but they used to be pretty cheap. I think they're probably a little bit more now just because the league's kind of dying. But anyways, that's what you want. You want some life, you want minions deal increased damage if you've done a minion skill recently, and some physical damage as well. The physical damage isn't as big of a deal as like it is in other builds like Syndicate Operatives or Carried Golems, because like I said, it's that slam that's doing a lot of your damage. But these are the 2 jewels that you're looking for, just maybe a little bit higher rolls. For our flasks, we do actually have a Forbidden Taste, which is so crazy with this build. It's actually super, super solid. This actually got nerfed this league, and it's still super solid. So it's now 25% of maximum life taken is chaos damage per second. That is bonkers. Let's see what our life regen. We have 620 life regen when we turn this on. Oh, it doesn't affect it. Wait, does it? Where are you, life regen? 620. No, it doesn't affect it. Total net regen. Maybe this? So yeah, we lose about half of our regen when we hit this, but not a big deal because we have so much already. But if we didn't have 80% chaos res, this would absolutely destroy us. The only reason we're able to use this flask is because of having so much chaos resistance. But it's a crazy flask. It's super good. It's recover full life on use. Now there's a big range, so make sure you buy one that has recover full life on use. The reason it's so good is because it's a life flask, but you can actually enchant it with the used when you take a savage hit. So anytime you take a big hit, it's going to auto use this flask and fill you back up to full life immediately. It's a super good combo. So any build, in my opinion, that has really high chaos res, always take this, unless you're an ES build, of course. So cool. Taste of Hate is just a really good defensive flask. Bottled Faith, you guys do not have to use this. Seriously, don't worry about it if you don't have one. I don't even have it check mark here, so it's not even affecting our DPS. Let's check it. I have to do things in configure, but my point is that I'm not even check marking it here. It's not affecting the DPS. Of course, it's going to be a good damage boost, but if you don't have it, absolutely don't worry about it. We do have an Experimenter's Quick Quartz Flask of Heat. Now, I'm using this just because I have been delving quite a bit, and quartz flasks are very good in delve. If I did not have this, I might choose a different flask. I might choose the Aquamarine Flask. I would probably do that one and then do the enchant use when you become chilled, and then do freeze immunity on there. But I have the quartz flask just because I'm delving. But yeah, definitely get one with use when you become chilled. Very, very solid in combo with immune to chilled and freeze. My last one here is a granite flask of staunching, so bleed removal, and then I have use when you start bleeding. Pretty good setup there. I like this setup quite a bit. Moving on to our jewels here. So we obviously have the Holy Trinity of Primordial Might, Anima Stone, and Primordial Harmony. Now we actually are stacking 4 Primordial Harmonies, and the reason we're doing that is because we are trying to get as much cooldown recovery rate for our golems as possible. As you can see right there, the max is 45% increased cooldown recovery rate, and that's going to allow them to slam faster and more often. So very, very good for that. And we want 4 of those. And then I already mentioned the Glorious Vanity. And I already mentioned the Large Cluster Jewel. Maybe I didn't mention Large Cluster Jewel, actually. So Renewal and Vicious Bite is the 2 that's very good. You can also get Feasting Fiends if you can get that for the 3rd. And then for the extra little suffix there, I do have 3% increase attack and cast speed. So overall that comes out to 12% increase attack speed. So not too bad. Like I said, attack speed isn't that crazy on a stone golem build, but if you're min-maxing, feel free to get that. It's more beneficial on like carrying golems or syndicate operatives. Not as crazy for us, but it's still, you know, min-maxing, throw it on there. Sounds great. Cool. So that was our tree, that was our skills, and that was our items. So the last thing I wanted to do here is pop on over to my handy dandy spreadsheet. Now, I always like to mention this because for some reason you guys don't know this, but you can scroll down to the bottom here, and these are all the tabs that I have. So these are all, actually all of my builds have these that I released, but just scroll all the way over to the side, stone golems, and here you go. So I'll kind of walk you guys through how to use this. Here's the POB if you do need it. Of course, I'll put it in the video description, but I always keep them here as well. Bandits, we are killing all. Our bad map mods are physical reflect and no regen. Definitely re-roll those. We are going to anoint, let's change this to champion of the cause. Champion of the cause. And again, that's to help with your mana sustain a little bit better. And if you don't want to do that, you can do the Ravenous Horde. Okay, cool. Moving on here. So basically what I've done for you guys is I have a trade link for every single item and every single item upgrade that you guys can get for this build right here in one place. Easy peasy. I've given a little bit of notes here on the side, but for the most part, I've been kind of talking about each item as we go. So, you know, just maybe to jog your memory over here. But basically, you literally just click it. So let's click one of the big boy wands. Let's click this guy. This is a big boy wand. Takes you right to the trade link, and bam, there you go. So easy peasy, and you can do it for every single item that I have in this build. Like I mentioned, here's clusters, medium clusters. Scroll down here. Here's all the jewels that I have. And that's really it, guys. That is pretty much everything for this build. Let's go ahead and go back to the POB real quick. Forbidden Taste. Is this the right one? Yeah. So I have two coming out. I have another guide that is actually a Reaper guide. A surprise. Reaper's pretty intense. I think Stone Golem is probably the best Golem skill right now. And I just kind of my take on where, you know, minion skills are in general. I liked this build quite a bit because it kind of brings me back to the old days of carrying golems. We're obviously never going to get back to that point because GGG does not like us having fun. So they're just going to keep nerfing it. I'm sure they'll nerf stone golems next because why not? Just keep making us sad. But for now, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It did, like I said, all the content in the game. Those Maven invitations were actually super easy. You can just run around in circles while your dudes just own everything. So it brought back that gameplay, and I was really enjoying it. I think it's probably one of the top minion builds right now. I think, in my opinion, of course, the Syndicate Operative Necromancer is still the strongest, has the most damage. You can do 30 million DPS with roughly the same investment in that build. But, I mean, just depends on playstyle if you want to do it. It's definitely more complicated to do a Syndicate Operative build if you're going to the medium and high budget versions. And you're going to be spending a whole lot more currency, actually, than what I did here. This is a much simpler build. The playstyle is pretty similar, though. So that, and then like I said, Reaper, I have a guide coming out on that, so actually check that out here in the next couple days. Oh, my cat made an appearance. So yeah, that's really all I think I have for this one, guys. The league has slowed down for me a little bit. I'm sure it has for a lot of you guys. I have personally not been enjoying this league, not because of, I don't know, it's just different. I'm sure all you guys are experiencing roughly the same thing. It's just a different kind of feel as a game. This build itself and the Reaper build that I've been playing has kind of brought me back into the league, kind of the way that Forbidden Right Totems did. Kind of just finding that build that you like really helps you, you know, kind of go through the league and suffer through the pain a little bit more. And this build definitely did that for me. I enjoyed coming back to it and doing all the content again. So it was pretty nice. As far as probably the next week or two for guides for you guys, I'm going to have, like I said, that Reaper guide coming out. And then I have 1 or 2 more build guides planned after that. And then from there, we'll just kind of see how everybody's feeling with the league. If you guys are still enjoying the content, I'm of course going to keep doing it. I think that's what I have enjoyed the most about this league, is just making content for you guys and being able to help y'all out with builds. And we will absolutely continue that for the foreseeable future with the league. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button if you have not already. Subscribe to the channel, and also if you're still watching this long after 33 minutes, I appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope this guide helped you out in some way. I'll catch you guys in the next one. So will my cat. Bye, guys.